Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the course Therapeutic Nutrition. This is the fifth module, that is nutritional management of non-communicable diseases. And this is the first lecture in which we shall be studying about nutritional management of diabetes. I am Dr. Jaspreet Kaur, presently working as Assistant Professor in Government College for Girls, Ludhiana, Punjab, affiliated to Punjab University, Chandigarh. And this project is funded by DTH Swayam Prabha, MHRD, New Delhi. In the previous module, we had studied about etiology, clinical features, and nutritional management of overweight, underweight, and eating disorders like anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. And in this lecture, we shall be studying about the basics of diabetes. To understand diabetes better, it is important that we understand what are the basics of nutrition first. As we know, nutrition is a process of consuming, absorbing, and utilizing the nutrients which are needed by the body for growth, for the development and maintenance of life. And to receive adequate, appropriate nutrition, we need to consume a healthy diet which consists of various types of nutrients. These nutrients can be either macronutrients or micronutrients. Macronutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and some kind of minerals along with water. Why we call them macronutrients? Because our body needs them in larger amount. And along with macronutrients, we need certain micronutrients. Now, these are again equally important nutrients, but we need them in smaller quantities. So these include vitamins and certain minerals, and they all will enable the body to use the macronutrients in a better way. So what happens to food inside our body? When we eat food which contains carbohydrates along with protein and fat, so here we will focus on carbohydrates, that the digestive system will break down this carbohydrate into a digestible form, that is known as sugar, or we call it glucose, which will enter our blood. And this glucose, with the help of blood, it will be transported to all the tissues of our body, which will be utilized by the body tissues. They are our cells, as a source of energy for their normal functioning. The acini, which forms the major part of these pancreas, they secrete the digestive juices into the duodenum. The iles are the islands of cells which are interspersed in the acinar portion of the pancreas. So here we can see these are the iles, and they are interspersed between the acinar cells which are spread all over the pancreas. These islands, they are composed of three types of cells. They are alpha cells, which are in the peripheral portion, and then beta cell and delta cell, which are interspersed in the inner side of the iles. Alpha cells, they secrete the hormone glucagon, beta cells, they secrete insulin, and delta cells, they secrete somatostatin. Now, insulin and glucagon, they are the two important hormones that regulate glucose metabolism. So the exocrine function of the pancreas is that it will secrete the juice which will contain bicarbonate to neutralize the acidity of chyme. So what is chyme? That is the liquefied food once it reaches the stomach. And along with that, it will secrete digestive enzymes that will assist in the digestion, absorption of the nutrients in the small intestine, and it will help in further breaking down the carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids which are present in the chyme. The endocrine function of pancreas, they include the formation of insulin and glucagon. Along with that, they secrete somatostatin also. And as we know, insulin and glucagon, they have a role in glucose metabolism, which we shall be studying in the coming slides. But the somatostatin, it has an important role to play in cell proliferation, and along with that, it also secretes pancreatic polypeptide that will affect the gastrointestinal tract's motility along with metabolism of other nutrients. Let's study about how glucose is utilized inside our body. Glucose, it enters the blood through three sources. First source is through carbohydrate containing food such as grains, fruits, milk and sweets in the gut. And secondly, through the breakdown of the complex glucose which is stored in the liver or muscle cells, and that is known as glycogenolysis, or through the breakdown of fat cells. And along with that, it could be because of new synthesis of glucose inside the liver. We call this process as gluconeogenesis. So our cells, they need energy as a source. And when the insulin is not there, the cells, they will starve of energy in spite of having glucose at their doorstep. So generally, our body, it controls the level of blood glucose and level of glucose in the cell with the help of two hormones. They are insulin and glucagon. So almost all the organs of the body, under the normal conditions, they are dependent upon glucose as immediate source of energy. So once we take high carbohydrate meal, the glucose that is absorbed into the blood, that will cause rapid secretion of insulin from the beta cells of isles, which we just saw in the previous slides, in the pancreas. The insulin in turn causes rapid uptake and storage and use of glucose by almost all the tissues of the body, but especially by the muscle cell, fat cells and liver cells. So let's study about the action of insulin. Insulin reduces the level of glucose in the blood by binding to the insulin receptors which are embedded in the cell walls of insulin receptor tissues like muscle or adipose cells. Now, after that fusion of insulin along with the insulin receptors, all these insulin receptors, they will be activated, and these activated receptors, they will cause the vesicles inside the cell which contain glucose transporters. These glucose transporters, they will fuse to the cell wall or cell membrane, and they will allow the glucose to enter the cell. So let us see what is the effect of insulin on blood glucose level. As we know, it will lower the blood glucose level. And now what is the mechanism? It will make sure that there is no glycogenolysis. That means glycogen does not break down inside the liver or the muscle cells. There is lower gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is production of glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. And then along with that, it will increase the glycogen synthesis. And it will also cause increased glycogen synthesis in the muscle cells also. And in fat cells, the effect of insulin will be, it will increase the glucose uptake by the fat cells, and it will lower the free fatty acid release from these fat cells. Glucagon, on the other hand, it will does exactly the opposite. It will raise the blood glucose level by stimulating liver to generate glucose from non-glucose molecules. And it will also lead to breakdown of glycogen, leading to glucose, which is dumped to the blood. So let us understand the mechanism of action of glucagon. So glucagon, as we know, it is the hormone which is secreted by the alpha cells of isles of Langerhans. And when the blood glucose concentration falls, glucagon will increase the blood glucose concentration, that is exactly opposite to that of insulin. It will do this process with the help of, first, promoting the breakdown of liver glycogen. We call this process as glycogenolysis. And then secondly, by increasing the gluconeogenesis in the liver cells. So both of these, they are there to greatly enhance the availability of glucose to the other organs of the body. So let's consolidate what glucagon is doing. It is doing just what reverse to what insulin did. That means it will increase the blood glucose level. How it will do? It will increase the glycogenolysis. That means lysis means breakdown of glycogen. And secondly, it will see that there is increased gluconeogenesis. Genesis means production, new production of glycogen or glucose from the non-sugar sources, non-carbohydrate sources. And it will increase the lipolysis so that fat cells, they also release energy producing free fatty acids and more glucose is added to the bloodstream. Now, after we have studied about the individual roles of insulin and glucagon, let us see how both of them, they work in coordination to maintain the blood glucose levels. How the glucose homeostasis is maintained by the body with the help of these two hormones, that is the maintenance of glucose level at 90 milligram per 100 ml, that is a set point. So let us consider the first stimulus, that is when the blood glucose level rises. So when this condition happens, whenever we are eating food which is high in carbohydrates, or whenever some other condition happen that there is more glucose level in the blood. So this will cause beta cell in the pancreas to release insulin in the blood. Now, what will this insulin do? As we have already seen, it will help body cells to take up glucose, and it will help liver to take up glucose and store it as glycogen. This will cause blood glucose level decline and hemostasis will be achieved. Now consider the second stimulus. Here the blood glucose level has fallen. It could be because of any kind of starvation, or it could be because you have not eaten anything, you have skipped the meal, or it could be even after overnight when we do not eat food for a longer period of time. So this will cause alpha cells of the pancreas to release glycogen. Now what will this glycogen do? It will cause liver to break down glycogen and release the glucose, and the glucose level will again rise and the homeostasis will be achieved. So this maintenance of blood glucose level by the insulin and glucagon, they are important control systems to maintain the normal blood glucose concentration, responding to high and low blood glucose level respectively. So whenever there is level which is raised, the insulin will take the charge, and whenever the blood glucose level goes down, the glucagon will take the charge. So under the most normal conditions, the insulin feedback mechanism is much more important than the glucagon mechanism. However, the glucagon mechanism becomes more valuable in the time of starvation or when extra glucose is needed by the body, say during exercise or during some stressful conditions. So coming to the main topic of today's lecture, that is diabetes. So diabetes, it has come from the word that is a Greek word known as diabetes, meaning siphon or to pass through. And along with that, there is a Latin word mellitus, which means honeyed or sweet. So diabetes, it is one of the most common non-communicable disease, which is a serious chronic condition. It is a group of disorders which are characterized by high blood glucose concentrations resulting from defects in insulin secretion or insulin action, or both defect in secretion and action. It is a leading cause of death in most high income countries, but it has not spared even the economically underdeveloped and newly industrialized countries also. So, coming to the prevalence according to IDF Diabetes Atlas 9th edition. So, if we look at this map, an estimated 463 million adults aged between 20 to 79 years, they are currently living with the diabetes. This represents 9.3% of world's population in this age group. And the estimated number of adults of this age group with impaired glucose tolerance is 374 million. That is 7.5% of the world population of this age group. And an estimated 1.1 million children and adolescents who are under 20 years of age, they have type 1 diabetes. And the number of deaths which are resulting from the diabetes and its complication in 2019, they were estimated to be 4.2 million. And an estimated 15.8% of live births, they are affected by the hyperglycemia in pregnancy. That is the figure of 2019. And global diabetes estimates and projections, they say if the current trend continues, 700 million adults will have diabetes by 2045. That will be around 10.9% of the population. And the largest increase will take place where the economies are moving from low to middle income status. So if we compare that, the top 10 countries or the territories for the number of adults who are having diabetes are country that falls at number 2. And number of adults with undiagnosed diabetes in 2019, they were in our country, it was more than 10 million persons. So this shows the situation of diabetes, and that is why we need to give due importance to this malady. Now we know that diabetes is a big, serious global problem. Let us study about the different types of diabetes. So the diabetes, it can be classified into 4 major categories. The first one is type 1 diabetes, then second one is type 2 diabetes, and then third type would be gestational diabetes mellitus, and along with that we can have different type of reasons causing diabetes, which can be categorized as other types. So let us understand the pathophysiology of the diabetes. So the first one is type 1 diabetes mellitus. It is also known as juvenile onset diabetes, as its onset is usually at the younger age group. And it is also known as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. And it affects around 10% of total diabetic persons. So what causes type 1 diabetes mellitus? It is a result of destruction of insulin secreting beta cells of Isles of Langerhans in the pancreas. So in this condition, it appears that a genetic abnormality occurs where the tolerance to its own body cell that gets diminished or it is absent. And this condition is known as type 4 hypersensitivity, where the body's own T cells, they will attack the pancreatic cells, especially the beta cells. And Now, when the beta cells, they are diminished, that will decrease the endogenous, that means the internal production of insulin inside the body. And this will result in piling up of glucose in the blood because it will not be able to enter the body cells. And the destruction of beta cell, they actually start early in the life. And many a times, more than 90% of the beta cells, they are lost before the hyperglycemia develops and the diabetes is actually diagnosed. And the patients, in this case, they need exogenous insulin to reverse the catabolic conditions and to prevent the complications such as ketosis or hypergluconemia, or to normalize the lipid or protein metabolism. So let's understand type 1 diabetes through this illustration. So as we know that these are the pancreas, and here we have beta cells. These beta cells, they are producing certain kind of proteins. Now these protein or the peptides, they are mistaken as the enemies by our immune cells. So this is an immune cell, this is a dendrite. Now it has taken this protein as an enemy, it has taken and presented to the T cells, that they are the main immune cells. Now these immune cells, they will start attacking our beta cells. So this repeated action of presenting and attack on beta cell, that will diminish the beta cells, and in turn the insulin production, that will be diminished or it could be absent. So the type 2 diabetes mellitus, it was previously called non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. And it is the most common form of diabetes, and its onset is gradual. It is not acute as it happens in type 1 cases. And the causes of type 2 diabetes, they are multifactorial, which could be genetic and environmental elements, which will affect the beta cell function and tissue insulin sensitivity. And it actually occurs in adults, but nowadays we see it increasingly happening in children and adolescents also. So due to the formation of some inflammatory substances inside the body, or obesity or insulin resistance, they all lead to progressive decline in the number and the functions of the beta cells, which we have seen, and that will lead to hyperglycemia. So hyperglycemia means, hyper means more, glycemia means glucose, emia means blood. So that means more glucose in the blood. So this hyperglycemia, it can trigger both beta cell dysfunction and insulin resistance can also happen. So here in type 2 diabetes, either the body is not producing enough insulin to handle the glucose load, and the other cause could be the cells, they are ignoring the existing action of the insulin. They are not responding well to the insulin. So what is this insulin resistance? It is a disorder in which the cells, they do not use insulin properly. As the need of the insulin will increase, the pancreas, they will gradually lose its ability to produce it. So in contrast to the people with type 1 diabetes, majority of those who are having type 2 diabetes, they usually do not require insulin to survive. So many people, they are able to manage this condition through the healthy diet and increased physical activity, and they need oral medication for that. And but if they are unable to regulate the blood glucose level, they may be prescribed insulin. So let us see and understand the type 2 diabetes with the help of this illustration. So if we can see this image, the normal condition of the cell will cause proper uptake of glucose through these cells. So here this blue ball is indicating that the insulin, it has attached itself to the receptors, and these receptors, they will cause all these glucose carriers to combine on this cell membrane and help the glucose to enter the cell. Now, this second condition of insulin resistance or some other condition which will cause type 2 diabetes. Here we can see there is insulin present here, but these carriers, they are not allowing the glucose to enter the cell. So this leads to accumulation of glucose outside the cell. Cells, they are not able to get the glucose inside them, and this causes hyperglycemia, and that leads to type 2 diabetes. So next type could be gestational diabetes. It will develop during pregnancy, and the prevalence is around 3 to 7% of all the pregnancies happening. And during pregnancy, the placenta, it makes a hormone that can lead to buildup of glucose in the blood. And usually the pancreas, they make enough insulin to handle that. But if this is not sufficient, this will cause blood sugar level to rise. And women with the history of gestational diabetes, they are at higher risk of developing diabetes in their future life. So the other type of diabetes could be drug or chemical induced diabetes. Then it could be because of certain genetic defects where the insulin action is not there, or there could be genetic defect in beta cell function, or other type would be MODY, that is mature onset diabetes of young. And then it could be LADA, that is latent autoimmune diabetes of aging. Maturity onset diabetes in young, MODY, it refers to any of the several rare hereditary forms of diabetes mellitus which are due to dominantly inherited defects of insulin secretion. And the onset of hyperglycemia is usually at younger age, generally between 9 to 25 years of their age. And it is characterized by impaired insulin secretion with minimal or no defect in the insulin action. And similarly, we have malnutrition related diabetes mellitus. It is seen commonly in developing countries, like India is also one of them. And it occurs in young, mostly between the age of 15 to 30 years of age. And people, they look thin, lean, and they are malnourished. Here, what happens is that pancreas, they are not producing enough insulin, and that is because of malnutrition. So these individuals, they require insulin from the external sources. So let's discuss another condition. As the name is suggesting, it is called pre-diabetes. Here, the blood glucose level is higher than normal, but not yet high enough to be considered as type 2 diabetes. So if this condition goes without any lifestyle changes, there are there are higher chances of progression of this kind of condition to develop type 2 diabetes. Now, pre-diabetes, generally it has no signs or symptoms. One possible sign is that the person may be at risk of type 2 diabetes is if we see darkened skin on certain parts of the body. The affected areas may look dark. For example, there could be dark spots near neck, armpit, elbow, knees, or knuckles. So, what is the effect of insulin resistance and beta cell function on the type 2 diabetes mellitus? Let us see. So, the first condition is where diminished tissue response to insulin will happen, and this will result in peripheral insulin resistance, and this will lead to hyperglycemia. And along with that, the second condition would be when there is progressive decline in the IELTS function. This will be accompanied by decreased insulin secretion and inadequately suppressed glucagon that will further cause hyperglycemia. So what we studied in this lecture, let's summarize. We studied that the metabolism of carbohydrates involve a process in which there are two types of hormones which are important. And we studied about the functions of pancreas. We studied the role of insulin in glucose management. where it will regulate the glucose level in the blood by promoting the absorption of glucose from the blood to the liver, fat, and skeletal muscle cells, and it reduces the breakdown of glycogen and fats. And glucagon, on the other hand, it increases the level of blood glucose level, acting just opposite to the insulin action. And together, both these insulin and glucagon, they maintain glucose homeostasis inside our body. Then we studied about the diabetes and we learned that it is a group of disorders which is characterized by high blood glucose concentrations resulting from the defect in insulin secretion, insulin action, or both these conditions. Then we studied about the prevalence of diabetes and its projections. Later, we studied about the types of diabetes. We studied that it could be type 1 diabetes mellitus, it could be type 2 diabetes mellitus, it could be gestational diabetes mellitus, or it could be some other forms resulting from various genetic reasons or other reasons. And then we studied that type 1 diabetes is caused when there is self-destruction of the beta cells of the pancreas and the insulin production is diminished. Whereas in type 2 diabetes, there could be either lower insulin production or it could be insulin resistance, which will lead to relative deficiency of insulin and it will cause hyperglycemia. And then we studied about pre-diabetes, where we studied that it is a condition where the blood sugar levels, they are higher than the normal but not yet high enough to be called as type 2 diabetes. We shall be taking this topic ahead in the coming lecture. Thank you.